First of all, let me just say how honored Jennifer and I are to be here with all the amazing speakers we've had and be in a room full of experts and people who are interested in this topic. What we want to talk about today is Google and some of the initiatives that we have launched just within the last year to address health and wellness issues with our employees. So let me start just by laying the context of Google, who we are and why we care about some of these issues. So at the core of Google is this concept of innovation. It's very important to who we are as a company, and that's pretty obvious because in the late 1990s, it was an innovation that launched Google with our search engine. We've had a couple of other product innovations that came out just within the last year or so, and I think they're kind of fun just to see what they are. But before we get there, actually, let me just say that this concept of innovation was codified in our founders letter. In 2004, this was the IPO letter that was written by our founders. And I love this line: Google is not a conventional company. We do not intend to become one. And the way that's experienced every day by Google employees is that we're encouraged to ask very audacious questions, big what-if questions about our products, about all the work that we do, whether you're in finance or whether you're in engineering. So the biggest, most audacious question of all, in my opinion, is the one that's linked to our mission, which is, what if we could organize all the world's information and make it universally accessible and usable? Well, we're making some good progress on that one. A couple of other fun ones that I just wanted to run by you includes, what if you could explore a coral reef from your desktop? Any of you who have used Google Maps probably have noticed there's a street view option and you can look around you. You can now have basically street view under the water. Kind of cool. Another one, what if all the great art of the world were available to you anywhere at any time? We're going around the world to the best museums, and where we're invited to do so, photograph the paintings, put them online so that you can visit any museum, whether or not you're actually in the city. And this is my personal favorite, which is, what if you could wear the internet in these fabulous glasses that look really cool? So there's a little thing there, and it actually accesses the internet, and it's called Project Glass. So these are the sorts of innovations that we have going on our product side. And now I'm about to say something that's going to cause most of you to lose interest in the rest of the talk. And that is that Jennifer and I are not product managers. We are not the engineers creating these amazing things. We are coming to you from HR, human resources, known to be the foundation of innovation at any company. Okay, so keep listening. Just because we're in HR does not mean that we do not have the same motivation to be innovative and ask big questions that occurs at the rest of the company. One of the differences, though, we're not trying to impact the experience of billions of people, the billions of people who are doing web searches every day, but instead we're trying to impact the experience of about 35,000 people who are working in 70 locations across 40 countries around the world who are Google employees, or what we call Googlers. And we ask ourselves lots of big what-if questions in HR. Like, what if everybody had a world-class manager? What if it took us 1 week to onboard new employees instead of 6 months? What if we knew your career development needs before you did and offered you exactly what you needed before you asked? Those are the sorts of questions we ask. Now, we have a group called the People in Innovation Lab. The Pi Lab is what we call it internally, which is a group of social scientists who try to tackle these questions through data, analytics, and world-class research. So I'm going to talk to you today, and Jennifer will get into the specifics of one big what-if question we have on the health side. What if working at Google added 2 years to your life? What are the kinds of things that we would have to do to you and with you during your time at Google to make this a possibility, knowing that you won't be with Google for the rest of your life? Maybe you will, but a lot of people won't. So this is the big what-if question for us. And at this point in the presentation, we could talk about a number of things. We could talk about the medical decisions that people are making for themselves and for their families on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. We could talk about investments in your retirement account so you have what you need to grow old gracefully. But instead, we're going to talk about food. Now, food is everywhere at Google. It's as core to our culture as innovation is. And there are 4 reasons that I wanted to talk about food as the example today. The first is this panel is right before lunch, so we wanted you to salivate as you looked at these beautiful pictures of food. The second is because of the abundance of food at Google. We serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner free of charge to any employee who wants it. In our Mountain View campus alone, which is our headquarters, we have 24 different cafes that are available to people. So lots of food available. And the pictures don't lie. It tastes really good, and our chefs take special care in what they prepare. The third reason to talk about food is because the decisions you make about the calories you consume and the food that you eat every single day has long-term impact on your health. That's what the research is leading us towards. So when you're spending so much of your time at work, you're at work 5 days a week, you're taking your meals there, that's a significant opportunity for us to influence your choice. There's also something that's not as fact-based. It's more of a internal anecdote, that there's something called the Google 15, and that's what we warn Nooglers, which are new employees, that they should expect to gain in weight during their first 6 months at Google. And I know what you're thinking, but I can tell you before I gained my Google 15, that was this big. It was really little. Now, and here's an example of choice and why that's really important when we talk about food. Last week, I looked at the menu for one cafe in the New York City office for one meal, and it was lunch. And I came up with, there were 4 different pages to the menu. And this is what people confront on a daily basis. So you could choose to sample all 7 dessert items. You could go to the grill. You could try some ceviche. And it's at this point of choice that we have an opportunity to influence the behaviors of our Google employees.
Thanks, Brian. So choice provides the opportunity to nudge. Nudges have received a great deal of attention recently, due in large part to some exceptional work by a number of behavioral economists and social psychologists. But a nudge is more than a reminder or making a decision for people. Rather, it builds on the understanding of how the mind works. And more to the point, how it doesn't always work like we think it does, and certainly doesn't always work the way we would like it to. But part of the point I want to make here is that we don't do our research from a blank slate. Working in the People Innovation Lab has been an amazing experience. I had started in the Silicon Valley back in the late 90s, and about 2002, when my career options were barista at Starbucks, I fled to academia for the money. And yeah, I came back to industry, but I came back for the data. And I was talking with Thomas Getz last night over dinner, and he in hearing about the work of our lab, talked about rats in a maze. For obvious reasons, this is not the phrase I like to use when we talk about the research we do, but perhaps for less obvious reasons, because we see our employees as partners in research. And part of that is we're trying to do this collaboratively. So I do a lot of work in building research partnerships across academia and industry, and I do a workshop at a conference, and I got a question from a student once who said, how do I get access to subjects at companies? To which I replied, well, first off, they're called employees, not subjects. And I say this because we do our research with our employees, not to them. And part of that means starting with a fairly sophisticated understanding of human behavior, as sophisticated as we can get from the state of social science art. So we are inspired by and hope to contribute to the work that has been done by many other folks. So, thinking about choice and the nudges that are available to us, we think about, as on the previous slide, the cognitive, motivational, and affective choices that people make. So let's talk some more about food. Decisions are costly. They require effort. This is effort we'd like to see more often spent on mapping the coral reefs of the world. But people come to eat. So we also hear from our Googlers that they want to be healthier. These are things they're actually asking for to help make decisions. So can we help influence choice by providing the right information at the right time? So we conducted a simple experiment, building on the research of Brian Wansink and others at Cornell that indicates that, among other things, there's a very strong relationship between the size of the container and how much you eat. So we put out plates. So imagine you walk into one of the cafes that Brian described, and you see all of this wonderful food, and you go to grab your plate, and in addition to the standard plate you're used to, there's also a small plate. We counted how many plates people chose. Which do you choose? I will tell you that most did, in fact, choose the large plate, and 79%, in fact. I mean, you saw the food. It's amazing. So then we described the research. We told people a bit about this connection. We explained what was going on, and then we counted again. And we found that we saw a 50% increase in the choice of small plates over large plates, and a great deal of satisfaction with having the option. And most of our people agreeing that it was very helpful in controlling their portion size. So what's interesting for me here is that it's not always just enough to provide the nudge, but in providing people with information and giving them the power to make the decisions and to make them in an informed way has some substantial impact. That said, we also know that cafes are not the only place where people eat. We have at Google something we call micro kitchens, which is a terrible misnomer. There's nothing micro about these kitchens. It's where people snack. They're great, again, a gathering place for folks. Oh, yes. One of the great things about being in an applied setting is that, as I mentioned, we're informing action. And so when we did an experiment, the experiment was done, but our work was not. And so now small plates is simply a matter of, it's what we do. It's a program. And this is one example of how the small plates have continued to roll out at Google. All right, so back to the micro kitchens. This is how we used to stock M&Ms. Yeah, it used to be like, no, there are a couple problems with this. Now, here's the case. I talked previously about wanting to make choices easier. Here's an example where we wanted to make a choice harder. Not take it away, but make it something that you did deliberately, right? So here, the M&M, now it's cereal, but it used to be M&Ms and everything else. So something that wasn't so healthy for you was given equal weight and availability as something that was perhaps a healthier choice. And portion control. Anyone who's had the experience of buying bulk food, you realize that you ended up with far more chocolate-covered raisins than you probably intended. So what are you going to do? You're not going to throw them out. You're probably going to end up eating them. So similarly. So we redesigned the micro kitchens. Now you see the fruit is up front and center. It's beautiful. There are other options in the bins. But we didn't take the M&Ms away. We just made them a little more difficult to get to. So here they are in these opaque bins. They're labeled. And what we found in the 7 weeks following this change, Googlers in the New York office ate 3.1 million fewer calories from M&Ms by making the portions easier to control and requiring a more deliberate choice on the part of employees. All right. So let's return to that audacious question. What if working at Google added 2 years to your life? So I want to leave you with 3 points. The first is that we make many small decisions every day. What to eat, what to snack on, whether to snack, whether to save for retirement. All of these things can add up, and at the right time in the future could make all the difference to you. My second point, though, is that, so not all companies are Google and have free cafes and free not-so-micro kitchens, but we spend enormous amounts of our elections in organizations, and these are contexts that guide and shape decisions. We are architects of choice in HR, is how we think of it in many ways. What can any organization do to support those healthy kinds of choices, be they stress-related, mental health-related, physical health-related? There are many opportunities, and not just at work, but at home. There's no reason why we can't all downsize our plate size or hide our M&Ms. But then my final point is what happens when we remember where the M&Ms are, right? So much of the research in nudging is one-time, one-shot decisions. How do we help people form habits? How do we make these behaviors consistent? Because we eat every day. So finally, I've been asked, well, aren't these nudges manipulative? And as I think about that, part of my response is that we are being nudged every day in directions that oftentimes we don't want to go. Why not try to nudge people in a respectful way while maintaining options in the direction that, for us, that we hear from our employees, they do want to go? So we've recently started these initiatives. They're new for us. We plan to track them for as long as we're around. We very much look forward to learning from all of you and the amazing work that's done, and to reporting back our findings over the years to come. Thank you very much.